Let's bring in Ambassador Daniel Fried. He is a former Assistant Secretary of State for Europe and is now a distinguished fellow at the Atlantic Council. Ambassador, welcome. How should we think about this? Is the evacuation of U.S. citizens and diplomats from Ukraine just a precautionary measure, or is it more telling than that?
It's precautionary, and that is telling. The United States and the Biden administration thinks that the danger of a war is sufficient, that it's now taking precautions rather than being caught until it's too late. It doesn't mean that Putin is determined to attack, but he might. The signs are there. The Biden administration takes this seriously, as they should. This is a bad moment for peace in Europe. And the fault lies with Vladimir Putin, who has created this crisis out of nothing.
Ambassador, this afternoon, the Pentagon, as I'm sure you know, announced that the U.S. military's mobilization in anticipation of a Russian invasion is underway. I know this is more of a military question, but do you have an idea of what exactly putting stateside troops on high alert means? They're not in the area, or is this just potentially to send a signal to Putin?
It's more than a signal. It is readiness of U.S. troops to go to Europe, not to Ukraine. President Biden has said that American troops are not going to fight in Ukraine. But he has also said that the United States will take its obligations to its NATO allies seriously. So I think it's possible that NATO, including the U.S., could send reinforcements to the most exposed NATO countries on the eastern edge of the alliance, Poland, the Baltic states, for one thing. They're not there to fight the Russians, but they're there to defend NATO. And at the same time, we need to help the Ukrainians defend themselves, which is what the Biden administration and the British and Baltic countries and Poland are doing by sending arms to help the Ukrainians defend themselves.
I'd like to get your take on this U.S. government bulletin that CBS News obtained today. It warns that Russia might consider initiating a cyber attack against the U.S. homeland if it believed that a U.S. or NATO response to a potential invasion of Ukraine was undermining its national security. How realistic is it that Russia might try to initiate a cyber attack against the U.S. again? And what would the strategy be there?
Well, you said it right. Again, of course the Russians have launched cyber attacks against the United States. We know that. Remember when Russian cyber hackers shut down the Colonial oil pipeline, causing gas shortages in large parts of the United States? The Russians are interested in putting maximum pressure on us so that the United States turns tail and runs from our allies and lets Putin reestablish an empire, a sphere of domination in Europe. We shouldn't let him. The United States fought World War II and the Cold War to achieve a united, peaceful Europe, hopefully with Russia as a part of that. But if Putin wants to go back to bad old days, we need to resist. The Ukrainians are trying to build a democracy and a free market system that works for them. We should help them. And I think that's what the allies, the Biden administration, the US, the Europeans are determined to do. It's the right move.
Well, after a diplomatic meeting in Geneva last week, the U.S. promised to respond to Russian demands in writing. Ambassador, what's the point of that?
Well, the Biden administration has rightly said that it wants to pursue all possible diplomatic channels for a solution. The Russians haven't made it easy, but the U.S. has come up with ideas that we would be willing to negotiate, like arms control and military risk reduction measures, real practical steps to ease tensions. And if the Russians want something in writing, well, I suppose we can give it to them. It's not a bad idea to try everything we can to avoid giving Putin an excuse to go to war. But at the same time, we need to protect our allies. So it's not diplomacy or getting ourselves ready to protect NATO. It's both. And the Biden administration is right to pursue talks. It's also right to send military assistance to help the Ukrainians defend themselves. And it's right to prepare to defend NATO countries if it comes to that.
Well, UK intelligence is going on record with a similar assessment of what U.S. intelligence had previously said. Russia is actively attempting to undermine Ukraine from within. Talk to us about what that looks like.
What it looks like is designating people to be your puppet rulers and then preparing to put them into power. That's an old Russian and Soviet trick. Set up a Ukrainian Committee of National Salvation, so-called, to go and take power if your army moves in, or if your intelligence officers inside the country manage to mount a coup. This is stuff we have to be prepared for. The British share our views, and I've heard from a lot of my European friends, particularly those in Europe's East who know the Russians best, who weren't surprised at all by this. They've seen this playbook before. We've seen this playbook before. This time we won't be fooled by it.
And the U.S. government must be concerned if it's now urging the family members of State Department employees to leave Ukraine. Ambassador Daniel Fried, thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate it.